Welcome everyone to episode 395 of the Daily Mother Swole. Welcome to the largest, most muscular podcast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex, we all flex our biceps. Today, you and I are going to get yoked from our head to our feet because Papa Swolio is going old school and going balls deep. All the way. We're going straight to the taint today for $3.95. Welcome to the Daily Swole. Thanks for watching me live every day at 12 noon Eastern Time. Thanks for watching on YouTube and listening to the podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes.
The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. The bacon is sizzling. Welcome to the Daily Swole.
We're talking failure today. What's up, Eric? Come on in, everyone. Welcome. Make sure you join the Daily Swole Club by liking and sharing the broadcast. Remember, drop an awesome fucking comment. An awesome comment. Don't be like, Papa Swolio, I love the beard. Be like, Papa Swolio's beard will cure fucking cancer. Papa Swolio, the cure for polio is in Papa Swolio's beard. I know we cured that already, but it's still pretty cool. I mean, the fact that we cured it could probably mean that I could take that cure and put it in my beard, and technically that would be true. But let's get creative with it. Let's get creative. Hashtag Daily Swole Club, like, share, and awesome comment with the hashtag, and you can win things like t-shirts, programs, one-on-one FaceTimes with Papa Swolio. Make sure you check that out, and the winner is always announced after on Instagram, at Swolenormous, on my After Swole Party on Instagram Live. So make sure after this, you stay tuned for the live broadcast over there on Instagram. Today we're talking about failure in your fitness. Let's talk about failure and let's explain what that means. Let's define what failure is, and let's talk about why this is important. Those of you that have not heard live webinar, interactive webinar, in my premium webinar series, make sure you check out the link in the description. You get a 7-day trial to premium and also get access to the weekly webinar. And the first one of this series is going to be Wednesday night at 8 p.m. So the link in the description, you'll probably hear me talking about it on Instagram and everything. But this is part of the Fix Your Fitness process. We're talking about failure with your fitness. Failure in your training. So you can talk about failure in terms of sets. You can talk about failure in terms of reps. You could talk about failure in terms of not getting to your goal, maybe not reaching goals. So there's different ways of explaining what failure actually is. Okay, failure could be I didn't get there, I didn't lose the weight, I didn't lift the weight, I didn't get as big as I hoped I would, blah, blah, blah. So it could be an overall goal. And it could be based on your sets and repetitions. So how many reps are you doing? Did you rep to failure? And a lot of people are always asking me, and that's the reason why I thought this topic was extra sweet, because I had a few people message me about failure. Why or how should they use failure to implement with their training? How should failure play a role in their training? And I want to talk about failure, not in terms of psychological, not in terms of, okay, I need to keep on pushing, never quit. Yesterday we talked about never quitting, never giving up, and you'll get to your goal if you never give up. And that's when people quit, the wallpapers and all the stuff on Instagram stories, Snapchat, but we talked about it yesterday on this is when people quit, on This Is When People Quit episode in 394. So when you talk about failure in terms of reps, in terms of sets, so let's redraw this, sets and reps. How many or how often should you go to failure? How much of a role should failure training play? And there's a bunch of schools of thought, and really it comes down to the individual, because you cannot say that you should never go to failure, because some people go to failure and get plenty of results. I built my physique on failure. I built my physique on pushing my shit to the limit. Now, I didn't always track how many sets I went to the absolute limit. I went there, I did work, and it was several. I mean, I would push myself as many sets as I could to failure. But there's also that aspect of, okay, was I just really young and stupid and just crushing the weights too much? Looking back on it, is it safe to be sore for 7 days? Should I feel like I'm in a wheelchair for a week and a half? Like, you don't want to feel like you're in a car accident. There's micro trauma, and then there's trauma that becomes a little bit more severe, where the body really shouldn't go that far regularly. It's like traumatic. It's the body's getting injured when it trains. You know, you're breaking down the muscle tissue, you're fucking your shit up. You want to make sure you're not overdoing it. So if you're a beginner, let's break this down into general categories. And remember, you're going to have to test this out, and you're going to have to see what's right for you and where you feel your sweet spot. And right now, what you can do in the comments below, if you're also doing Daily Swole Club, let's talk about what you're doing for failure. So while I'm doing this, I want you to comment below. Make sure you like and float some fucking hearts. You know, we're not zombies here. Be alive. Be alive. Act like it. And drop in the comments what you're doing right now for failure. How many sets are you doing for failure? Are you doing 1 set per exercise? 2 sets? Is it I fucking go to failure until I can't move? What are you doing right now for failure? Put that in the comments, and we'll get to that later on. Beginner, intermediate, and expert. And like I said, this is going to be brief and overview. This is something that in the Fix Your Fitness webinar on Wednesday, we're going to be going into a lot more detail. So this is going to be like kind of like a brief kind of like, you know, gloss over, but we're going to get into it really deep. You know how we go. We always deep. We're super deep on this on Wednesday. So if you're a beginner, this is what I say. This is playing it safe. This is how you play it safe. You should always play it safe, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or expert, but it's always erring on the side of caution, because if you're getting hurt, and I get asked a lot, how do you stay consistent? How do you see most results? It's consistency. How do you stay consistent to get results? Obviously, consistency is important. We always talk about that. But why is it important? And how can you stay consistent? Well, okay, there's motivation, discipline, blah, blah, but it's also not getting hurt. Because you could be the most motivated fucking person in the world, but if you pulled a muscle or you're sore, you're injured, or you tore something, you have to work at a slower capacity. You have to work your way back into it. So it's not all, you know, it's not all unicorns and fucking rainbows if you're injured. So you have to be careful with pushing yourself too hard, too far, because the worst thing that you can do is to get hurt. That's why I'm so heavy on the Swolga. That's why I'm so heavy on the active recovery. That's why we have those groups and those programs, and everything that we talk about is yoga. We call it Swolga here. But the active recovery, keeping yourself healthy, because if you're keeping yourself healthy, you can keep on training. And if you keep on training, you can keep on getting results. And blah, 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 blah. All right? It just makes sense. So beginner, no failure. Right? That's why beginners, why you shouldn't be, oh, I've never worked out before, let me do CrossFit. Fuck that shit. You need to be training carefully. You need to be training for form. So if you're a beginner, it's got to be form, you know, technique, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get too much into the details. Like I said, we're going to destroy the hell out of this on Wednesday. Intermediate, you can start adding. So intermediate depends on how many sets you're doing. So intermediate, I would say 1 set per exercise. You know, maybe intermediate, it could be 1 set, you know, maybe 1 to 2, you know, maybe like depending. You know, I don't like going over the entire workout. I mean, if you're thinking about how many failure sets you'll be having on in the entire workout, that depends, because every intermediate is going to be different. I mean, you can call intermediate a big range. Like if you have a lot more experience, but let's say you still kind of don't know what you're doing, you don't want to be doing failure sets if your form kind of sucks. Like you wouldn't even really be considered intermediate if you're not, if you don't have the form down right. But it's important to understand that everyone's different. So 1 to 2 per set. So if you're doing like a bench press, doing like 4 or 5 sets or 4 sets. Like when people say, oh, I do 3 sets of bench, for me, that's nothing. 3 sets is nothing for me. I love to do like 4, 5, or 6 sets. So I will do failure on more channels of that, or I'll push myself. But I'll notice, because once I start going to failure, the subsequent sets start getting, tweaked. And I always like to front load my workouts with, exercises I need to strengthen, that I need to focus on, and so forth. So 1 to 2. Expert could be, I'm just literally gonna say 1 to 2 plus. Because just because you're an expert doesn't mean you're gonna be going to failure, for 5 sets or for 3 sets in exercise. So 1 to 2, if you're an intermediate and you're doing like 3 or 4 different exercises, I wouldn't go to failure more than maybe 4 times in the workout. But if you're an expert, you might be doing 3 to 5 sets. You might be going to failure once or twice per exercise. So I would even kind of like take that down a little bit and maybe make it 1 to 2. But it depends. It depends, because just because you're an expert, don't think like, hey, it's failure city. I read my body. I read my body. So for example, if I'm training and I'm doing my workouts, I am going to attack harder on certain days. I'm feeling really sore, feeling kind of like low mood, like dragging ass a little bit. I'll go to the gym, I'm gonna warm up, and I'm gonna do a lot of warm-up sets. I'm gonna see how I feel. My failure, and this also comes down to intensity, which we'll talk about maybe tomorrow, but the intensity, how many reps are you doing? Is this 1 to 2 sets to failure? Are you doing 4 rep sets? Is that super heavy for you? Are you doing failure sets with 12 to 15 reps? Is the intensity a lot lower? Because you can go 12 to 15 repetitions, right? You can go 12 to 15 repetitions, and the intensity is a lot lower because it's a much lower percentage of your maximum output, your maximum capacity for 1 rep. So 12 to 15, obviously if you put weight on a bar and you're only doing 12 to 15 reps, that's not as challenging as it would be to put on a weight and do 4 repetitions. So a 4 rep to failure set is much different, like a 4 rep max set is different than a 12 rep max set because the intensity is different. Your output's different, the overload on your joints are different, what your body can handle is different. So if you're doing more bodybuilding style, 8, 12, 15 repetitions for a set, you could do some more failure repetitions rather than how many you're doing for 1 rep max. You gotta be careful. And that is more of an advanced style of training. That's strength training, that's power training. That takes a very, very periodized training protocol. You should never, ever, ever, ever in a million fucking years go to the gym, hey, let's see how much I max. If you're one of those people, smack yourself upside the head. You're lucky you're not hurt. And if you did get hurt, you deserved it. You deserved it. You should never go to a gym and just be like, hey, I'm gonna max today. Let me see how much I can max. That's how you fucking get hurt. And max reps, you should never do it. Why? Why? Don't ever do a 1 rep max. Don't ever do 1 rep. I don't care who you're talking to. That's where people get hurt. Unless you're a power lifter and that's your job, there's no need to do a 1 rep max. Do a 4 rep max, do a 6 rep max. You don't need to do 1 rep max. It's a waste of fucking time. What are you gonna learn? Hey, I bench 250, great. How's your rotator cuff feel? You're likely to hurt yourself because you're pushing yourself literally to a physical limit. And you're trying to find that physical limit. And what are you gonna do when you get there? Once you get there, you're fucked. It's over. It's game over. You're gonna be blasted. So don't be stupid. Forget the 1 rep max. It's an ego lift. You don't need it. I never do it. You don't need it. Trust me. If you want to lift a certain weight, that could be important for you for whatever reason. If you're trying to look a certain way, it's absolutely not important at all. You can do multiple rep max sets. So here's the breakdown: beginner, intermediate, expert. You can even make that 2+, just so it looks different on the scale. But obviously, the difference between these two, it depends. It depends on the person. It depends on you. So what I encourage you to do if you've never gone to failure, and what I mean by failure, what we're really talking about here is, and I'm talking about real failure. I'm not talking about like Muscle and Fitness or a magazine failure, like, oh, this is my most I could do. Like, oh, that was tough. I'm talking you couldn't do another rep. If your life depended on it. Now, most of you will never ever get to that failure. Most anyone, because you can't create that kind of adrenaline. You can't create that kind of self-preservation style training naturally. It's very hard to get there, but you need to start pushing yourself hard. When I say failure, I mean failure. And whether or not there's a little cheat rep in there, there's a lot of strategies for swinging the weight or cheat reps or negatives. There's a lot of ways to get to failure, but I'm talking about real fucking failure. Not like, oh, I did 10 reps, I couldn't do another one. That's not really the failure I'm talking about. I'm talking about really blasting the muscle, doing some extra spotted reps, some extra assisted reps, some extra negatives at the end. Real depletion failure training. So if you are not getting to that point where you're at your absolute fucking limit, then you got some work to do. You have to train harder, but understand that it doesn't take endless amounts of failure sets. If you're doing so many failure sets in a row, then chances are you're not training hard enough at the beginning. And if you're doing 15 sets, 18 sets for chest and you're not seeing results, you're obviously not doing enough with any of those sets. So it's not about how much you do, it's the quality, and then it's amplifying it. So make sure that you're periodizing, make sure you're building up slowly, and if you're a beginner, stay away from going to absolute failure in your sets because you're gonna be crippled sore, and just ease into it. And then everyone else maybe add one at the end of your set, do a few sets, 3 or 4 sets, do one at the end, see how you feel, make sure you're warmed up properly, and then build up from there. Thank you so much for joining for episode 395 of the Daily Mother Swole, the most muscular podcast in the realm, because when I flex, you flex. Come on. We all flex our biceps. Thanks for joining for 395, live every day at 12 noon Eastern Time, right here on Facebook. You can follow me on the YouTube and also on SoundCloud and iTunes for the podcast. Peace, McGee's, Deuce, Magoose. I will see you all for Daily Swole Club, announcing the winner on Instagram in a few moments on at Swolenormous on Instagram Live, so make sure you follow me over there. And remember, if you have not signed up yet for the premium webinar series, Fix Your Fitness on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The link is in the description. You get the free trial to premium, and you get access to Wednesday's webinar at 8 p.m. It's going to be this for a fucking hour. We're going to break it down and get into it. It's going to be lit like a tit. Awesome shit. I can't wait. Love you. I'll see you on Instagram in a few minutes. Thanks for joining. And yeah, let's get huge shake. It's Monday. Let's crush it. And premium also, we got that accountability meeting at 1 p.m. So stay tuned. I'll see y'all there.